Welcome everybody, Ken Bates here with another episode of the VA Loan Officer Superstar Series. Today's episode is talking with Jeff McMullen out of Monterey, California. Now Jeff started out like a lot of you. He was at a big bank, they gave him a desk and didn't tell him what to do. As he self-describes it, it was a train wreck. A lot of people would hide that, but Jeff uses it as an example to his clients now of why you should use him, a seasoned loan officer, and not that big box that has that new guy sitting at the desk. That's one of the many things that we talk with Jeff about and why he's really good at his job. The other thing is he does seminars. A lot of us think about seminars. He does them for agents and clients. But how do you get them there? What subject lines work? Can you get on base? That's the type of stuff that we're going to talk about in this episode with Jeff. I hope you like it. Good afternoon. Welcome to the VA Loan Officer Superstar Series. I'm here today with Jeff McMullen out of Monterey County up in California. Jeff is a loan originator, been doing it for about 15 years now. And he last year, you said, was just over $40 million. Is that right, Jeff?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And how much of that was VA?
About 20%.
Okay. What brought you into, describe your first VA deal to me ever. What brought you to VA and why do you like it so much?
My first VA deal was awful. I was working in a bank, didn't really know much about it. We had the system was basically, yes, you can do VA loans and then go. And so we submitted it and didn't know you needed a pest inspection. I didn't think about it. The agent, I was probably 23, 24 years old at the time. I'm 40 now, right? So it was kind of like, sure, we can do that. And I was just trying to make it work and it was horrible. So then I kind of stopped doing it altogether because I didn't want to, I don't want to get yelled at. I kind of have a pain aversion, right? I don't like pain. I try to stay away from it when I can. And then I probably really didn't start doing VA again until I got out of banking and was more of like a mortgage broker, mortgage banker, as opposed to working in a retail bank. And we had a lot more support, right? We had people that had done it. We had underwriters I could talk to that would kind of coach me through things. And yeah, this will work, this won't work. And yeah, it's better with coaching.
Okay. And you're specifically targeting VA. Why have you made that a niche?
So I saw, I guess my backstory, I saw my mom and dad. My dad was a Vietnam vet, and he got out of the military. Never actually served in Vietnam, but was in the, he enlisted, and anyway, long story there. But they bought their house with the VA loan about a decade ago. My dad passed away. My mom ended up selling the house. They never refied, like ever, which, I mean, your kid's a mortgage broker and you never refied anyway. But they never refied. She was able to sell the house. They made a ton of money, equity on the equity of their property. And I realized that that was only really possible through that VA loan. There was no way that, my dad was working class. As you get older, you kind of look at the numbers and you realize, wow, they didn't make a lot of money, but right. Financially, my mom's set for life because of some good investments, but also that VA loan really changed their financial picture.
Sweet. Now, as a mortgage originator focused on VA, how is it you're going out to specifically pursue VA business?
So once a quarter, we're doing a VA lunch and learn. We've changed a lot of our conversations. So when we get leads and intake, we're asking every client, are you a member of the military? Do you have are you eligible for a VA loan? We're asking those questions, and so we're trying to find more leads that actually qualify for, because a lot of people don't understand the VA. You still get a lot of questions like, military and veteran guys don't always know that they're even eligible for a VA loan. Well, I can't use it because I already used it once, or you hear stuff, right? So we're asking on the sales side, we're asking a lot of people, and then every realtor that we're meeting with, we're asking them about VA loans, right? And so,
but drill down for me. You said once a quarter we're doing a VA seminar. Is that for agents or for clients?
That is for realtors specific, because I think.
Okay, how do you get them there?
We feed them. Yeah, we have so we go to a golf course, which is I think if you have a golf course, it's and they have a little room in the back, it's always the best. Like you who doesn't want to go to a golf course, right? It's
Right.
beautiful. It's a good area. We market pretty heavily. So we do an Eventbrite. We do that a month out. We send it to our entire association of realtors, and
Yep.
then we send it once, and then we call everybody who's ever been to one of our seminars, and we check in to make sure they're going again. We keep the information current. So as we start to do as we do more VA loans, we have more stories. We have lots of what works, what doesn't work, and oh my gosh, I can't believe that happened. Here's how you never have this happen again.
Yep.
Um, a lot of it's
What is it in those classes that you think that the agents are most surprised by?
Myths. I think there's a lot of, so I don't know if it happens in every county, but in this county, a lot of realtors say, I'm not going to use VA. Their appraisers are horrible. The appraisals always come in low. Now, after years of business, we're able to quantify that that's just not the case. Like the percentages for my conventional deals and my jumbo deals and my FHA deals of low appraisals, they're the same, right? It's
Right.
not that maybe it wasn't the VA's fault that house appraised low, right? Like
Right.
maybe that was just an overpriced house. So
Okay.
having those conversations, it's that, can I use the VA loan again? Yes, you can. What if I have, can I use the VA loan and if I have a VA loan going, well, in some cases you can, right? And so it's breaking down it's
And
mostly education.
is there a subject line or some piece of marketing that seems to really capture the agent's attention that makes them come to the class in the first place?
We talk about myths, VA loans and myths, and in our county specifically, the VA jumbo, like the high balance VA.
Yep.
I mean, it stacks. We have a lot of homes that are in the 600 to 1.5 range, right? And you just the numbers they're staggering. Like it's less down payment, it's a lower rate.
Oh yeah, kicks the crap out of the other programs.
Yeah, and so I really believe there's a segment of buyers in this county that should be buying more homes, right? And so it's trying to convey that message to the agent. It's like, guys,
right?
It's a great thing, and yes, you should be doing it. Yes, these guys stood in front of bullets for us. Absolutely true. But also, this is a big book of business that everyone should tap into.
Now, you've been doing this for a long time, been in the same area for a long time, and you said you have 25 to 35 agents sending you business currently, correct?
That's about right. Yep.
Okay. What is it you do to maintain 25 to 35 relationships? What's your week look like to keep those agents happy?
So I track everything. I really like eating. We've got fantastic restaurants. Like seriously, if I was in San Diego where you are, I would weigh like 700 pounds. The Mexican food down there is so good. But I'm a breakfast guy. I try to take an agent to breakfast at least once or twice a week, and then I try to have 3 or 4 lunches a week. That's the main thing. But I do think the lunch and learn has been a bigger piece of business for me than anything else.
Okay.
Bigger room.
And your goal for next year, is it still going to be have the same number of agents, or what's the goal for next year?
No, I'd like to increase it. I think we're going to have a tough year. I think the market I think this shift is going to become more real. I think once we figure out everything that's going on in the market, I think, if we figure out how to keep the government open, and if we figure out how to, have some stability with our other countries, I think at that point the market starts to run. So I feel like we need more agents because I think the amount they're going to be able to give is going to be a lot less, right? So I think the only way you can really survive is to get more market share.
Okay. And now you're also targeting some classes directly to veterans as well. Is that correct?
Yeah. We do a VA, like a home buying seminar for clients. We haven't got it yet. A good friend of mine works. So in my area, there's the Naval Postgraduate School. There's also the DLI, which is a Defense Language Institute. So anybody who learns a foreign language in the military comes through either Monterey County or they go through, I think it's Virginia. And so we have a lot of influx. That's like 2,000 to 4,000 people in and out. And so he's talking about, we're working on getting on base just to start teaching not really VA stuff specifically, but just financial classes to these guys. Well, it's not, I don't think it's over the top to say that a lot of these guys don't get a really good financial education. They've got free room and board and 3 meals a day, and yet they're still spending all their money. So it's like, how do we fix that? And so we've found that pizza and beer fixes that a lot of the time, right? So we talk to them about money, and I found that almost anything, if I'm feeding you, I have a better opportunity to talk to you.
So pizza and beer once a month, once a quarter, and how many people are you getting to it?
We're trying to get it, so it's not there yet. This is kind of like an outgoing goal. We've yet to get like security clearance to go on the base and things like that. And so we're working through it, and he's part of the foundation. And so we're getting to that point. The goal would be to do it at least once a month. And then usually it fits about 10 or 15 people. I think it's going to be, technically that room could fit like up to 30, but my goal would be 10 or 15 guys just that we could sit down and actually go through how budgeting works, how money works, how to invest your money, how to, why you don't want to stand in line and buy the coffee when you get the coffee for free, that kind of thing.
Okay. Just for people watching, obviously I'm in San Diego, and we pursued that path a while ago. And in San Diego, the answer from Navy region here is when you run up the chain of command, hey, can we have something on base sponsored by this for-profit company? The answer is that company needs to be fully vetted. And the philosophy here is, hey, anybody could go on and sell used cars or insurance or, whatever it is to our military people. So the general feel we got for this was the companies that are vetted, the ones that are on base, the McDonald's and the, guys that sell plaques,
right?
They're given the pass.
Okay.
And everybody else is given the no. Because it's easier to say no to everybody than it is to actually work and figure out, who's the good ones and who's the bad ones. So what we found is trying to have the seminar on base, while you can do it at the MWR building or, whatever it happens to be, for you up at Black Horse or Bayonet or something like that, that's not quite base, but smells like base, often works really well. And then you're not fighting through those legal channels. Can you get on base on the down low sometimes? But if somebody runs it up,
just do it like right off site.
Yeah, if some in the Navy it would be command master chief or commanding officer from some small group says, yeah, come on, talk to my people. You go on, you talk to the people. But if he says, hey, let me check with my boss's 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 boss, the answer is probably going to come back no.
Got it. So better to keep it small as opposed to, that makes sense.
So it's just something a lot of people want to know, how do I get on base? And sometimes, if you have an in, obviously there are some big companies that have used some horsepower to get in. A lot of us don't have that type of horsepower. So that's where it's like, okay, how do I get as close as possible without having to get triplicate forms for yes that probably isn't coming?
Well, and we're super conveniently located too, right? If it was just at a coffee shop or a restaurant, we don't lack for those places. So yeah, we'll get there. I do think they need. It's mind-boggling how much. Well, not mind-boggling. I think it's disappointing how little financial education they get in the service. Right? They come out and they've spent all their money and they've worked in free room and board.
Yeah, as a military person myself, I can say this because, I'm talking about my community.
Right.
But military people have a tendency to amazingly live paycheck to paycheck because the money's going to be there every 15th and 1st of the month.
Yeah.
So literally in the past, when we've had government shutdowns where they've threatened to not pay military families and people, there are people that are freaking out going, well, what am I supposed to do if I don't get paid on the 1st? Because I'm not going to be able to make my bills. It's like, don't you have anything in savings? Don't you have a rainy day fund? And most of them don't, because it's so secure and so safe that you just, hey, you know what? I made rank. Let's go spend that little incremental pay raise. And next thing you know, 2 years have gone by and you haven't saved anything from that incremental pay raise. And next thing you know, 20 years have gone by and you have a token TSP that you've probably borrowed against to pay for the kids' college or something, and $2,000 in savings because last week was payroll. But yet we have examples of people from the military who bought a house at duty station number 1, left it behind as a rental, and then continued to live that life. and they got the same $2,000 in the savings account, but they got, a couple $100,000 in equity in house number one because they just, bought the Monopoly Square and then rented it out to somebody else.
Yeah, absolutely true.
So we absolutely see that. So getting on base, a great thing. Getting their attention is the hard part. I won't fib.
Yeah, no, it's true, and I think it's something you recognize as you do more VA loans, right? Like the credit quality is it can be rough, right? It's like, wow, you have no money at all. You haven't paid the bills. Well, why? Oh, well, I was out of work that week. I'm like, oh, that week is like a big deal, right? So,
one of the things I saw on your website is you offer a $600 voucher for coming to your seminar. So have you found that to be successful for capturing people's attention?
I think so. I think it gets people in and they're willing to talk and listen. I think we don't do enough as an industry. Maybe, I can't talk for the whole industry. I know I don't do enough throughout my sales process, just educating people on everything they need to know. This gives people, usually it's a good hour. We usually do it the second Tuesday of every month. We do it from 6 to 7. So we just bring in pizza and we kind of just flip through the PowerPoint, open it up for questions. I've gotten good reviews on it, and I find that if they go there, they're a lot easier. It's a lot easier experience for them when I'm asking for more paperwork along the way.
Sure.
Or they understand the reasoning behind it.
Now, switching gears here a little bit, you obviously do a lot of volume, and you talk about, people coming to your seminar. What do you have for follow-up systems to stay in front of people to go, you came to my seminar, but I know you might not buy a house for a year. So what is it you're doing to follow up and stay in front of them? And how do you divide up that workload with your team?
So we've got a pretty big CRM. We use Jungo and Salesforce. I've heard it described as by an executive as like it's a howitzer, right? It does a lot, right? And so we do a lot of drip campaigns. We also do a lot of events. So last night we had an event for the Coast Guard because they were the only military that didn't get that were actually affected by the furlough and didn't get paid. And so we did they're going to get paid, but a lot of them still haven't been paid yet. And so we do a lot of events, and we like to invite people to those events. We try to do a couple customer appreciation parties a year, and client appreciation parties. And we invite obviously prospective clients to that as well. So yeah, we do have it. So the short answer is, yeah, it's mostly drips. And then if we felt like we've made a connection and nothing has ever happened, we call back. But most of it is all scheduled follow-up, right? So,
okay. And are you doing that follow-up, or is your team, and what does your team look like?
I've got a team of 3. So it's myself. We have well, technically it's a team of 3, but it's really a team of 4. So I probably should be fair about that. I've got Deanne, who is she's our kind of our intake. She does leads, and I've got Leslie, who's our contract to close. And then Tim is a junior LO who will be passing his test in a couple of days. And then he's going to be an LO, but he also helps a lot with our marketing. He does the Eventbrites for us. He does he does a lot of the follow-up with agents who come to our classes and also with clients who come to classes.
Okay. And I saw Deanne's name in a bunch of reviews, so she's apparently very involved with the process because clients like to mention her in your 5-star reviews. So
I think so. I think if you're doing more than 3 or 4 deals a month, you got to have somebody there, right? It just becomes. I don't think ours is an industry that is easy to scale, right? I think it's to do more volume, to do more transactions. I really do. I'm a believer. I think you need a team.
Okay. In terms of scale, scaling up your volume and not scaling up your family hating you. You're a husband, you're a father of 5, 3 boys, 2 girls. You said most of them are teenagers and a couple in late single digits.
Yeah, so we've got 2 16-year-old boys who are, one is anxiously looking forward to driving, and I think one is anxiously looking forward to his brother driving so he can be the passenger. So we've got that, and then I've got a 14-year-old daughter, a 12-year-old son, and we've got a 7-year-old as well, and a 7-year-old daughter. So it's rough. I think having a team also kind of does afford you a little bit of luxury of sneaking away from time to time and knowing that everything's covered.
So how many hours a week are you working?
If I had to put a number on it, I think I'm 50 to 60. closer to 60. Like this week will be closer to 60. We had an event last night. There's an event I'm going through tonight. And so this will be a long week, but most weeks I'm out.
Question I've been asking a lot of loan officers recently, do you have any boundaries? You obviously work with a lot of real estate agents. So is there any time of, hey, I have the following boundaries with agents?
I tell people, and I pretty much hold to this, is I've got church on Sunday. And other than that, I'm pretty much available, which is not healthy. And the first step is recognizing there's a problem, and I've recognized there's a problem. I don't know about the next 11 steps, but I'm on step 1.
Well, you got the team, which is better than most, because there's the old phrase that if you don't have an assistant, you are one.
Right.
So getting that team is definitely step number 1, and then training them and getting them to do as much of the work as possible, so you're out prospecting.
True. Yep.
So yeah, tapping into that to get that life balance. I know one of the things that I said from stage years ago was my wife likes me and my kids know me. And I had many loan officers come up to me afterwards and go, I want that.
Well, I mean, yeah, so there's progress, right? Like a year ago, talking to you for an hour was not an option, right? Like that, there was no way that fits into my life a year ago. So we're getting there. We're getting better. I'd like to have these grandiose ideas of a couple of vacations, like, 3 or 4 vacations a year, but it's not there yet.
So the phone and the computer go with you on vacation.
Yeah. The best vacations I've taken have been cruises because the phone just doesn't work. But that's, we need more cruises in my life.
It's actually, one of the things that I encourage my loan officers is to have boundaries. And when they do go on vacation, we cover for each other. So I had one loan officer go on vacation for 3 weeks to Turkey. It was his best month during that 3-week vacation. It was like $3.5 million that month.
That's awesome.
Yep. And one of the other things, I was just talking to one of my loan officers yesterday about, hey, when you get home, you may want to consider leaving your phone in the car, because he's got a 1-year-old at home. His time with her is precious. That's his term. So he's like, hey, until she's down around 7:30, I want to spend every moment with my wife and daughter that I can. And I asked, how's the phone doing? And I was like, maybe you leave it in the car. And yes, it will freak you out. But then at 7:30, when she's down, go back to the car, get your phone, go through it for 15 minutes and make that agreement with your spouse. And I'll bet you your spouse is going to love the snot out of this idea, because she's going to have your full attention till 7:30. And at that moment, she's going to go, okay, I know that the rubber band is going to pull you back so strong to that car to get the phone, because you're going to be twitching. But hell, for the last 2 hours, I've had you. And that's what they want, right?
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay. Now, what do you see loan officers messing up with VA loans? What like one thing do you see that comes up on a regular basis?
I think it's how most of us sell everything, is we try to sell this amazing service that we can close the loan in, I can close a loan in 12 days and I can go super fast. There is a reality that we don't have control over when the Section 1 work gets done. We don't have control over, what's required. And so I think a lot of people come in saying, hey, I can close it super fast. And then it ends up going long and everybody's upset. And it looks very much like the loan officer lied, where the loan officer did have his part mostly done, right? But if that's not clearly communicated up front, I think that's a bad thing. To be honest, I get a lot of loans just because of fear of the big boxes, right? Like in this space, we see a lot of USAA, we see a lot of Navy Fed, and almost every longtime agent has had a bad experience with one of those guys, right? And I don't want to say that that's right or wrong, but I think you don't have a lot of really experience. I think a lot of guys at USAA and at Navy Fed are like me when I was at the bank. Sure, I can totally do that. Yeah, we don't need that. Absolutely, right? And it's just youth, right?
So when you get a client that comes to you and says, well, we're a member of such and such a bigger bank or something else, what is it you tell them that explains your value, and what scripting, or how do you come across?
So I asked them, one, if their realtor they're working with actually knows the person, right? Because they almost never know the USAA person. They almost never know the Navy Federal person. And has he heard of this person? What's their reputation? Have they closed deals? I really build on my experience and hopefully my good name throughout the community, right? And so that's usually the question. That's usually, so yes, yeah, they do have a better rate. Are you sure they can close? No. And then if you go online, their reviews are not fantastic, right? And so I'm happy to share that website from time to time. So
Yeah, some of those reviews aren't there anymore. So
right.
that company may have figured out that we don't want those reviews to be seen.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think it's that. And then it's also just trying to, how long, asking them to ask their person, how long have you been in the industry? How long have you done this? Right. Are you working with a professional? Because if you're coming and you're working with my team, we're good at what we do. Right. So that's usually the path.
Okay. Any wrap up stuff, any advice that if you were to go back to young Jeff and say, hey, you know what, you're starting out in this industry. Here's the 3 or 4 mistakes you're probably going to make in the beginning because you look back on your own past and say, I went this direction and I shouldn't have. And here's the 3 or 4 things you really should have spent more time on to grow your business. Any advice to somebody like that?
I think being a junior LO would have really helped. Sitting with someone who actually is doing it. One of the issues I had being in the bank is that it was self-taught. A lot of you're the loan officer for the branch. Go, and it's like, well, I've never done a loan, but go talk to Jeff. He's the loan officer. Can you do this loan? I have no idea, right? So I think having, I'm either a junior LO, getting some type of coaching. I personally am enrolled in a very expensive coaching program. I think it's fantastic, but it's definitely not for everyone. There's a big chunk of change that goes with the coaching program I'm in. But I think, doing any of them would be fantastic. Just having some sort of script and vision to work off of, because I think it's very easy to get discouraged, especially for new LOs. Like, why isn't anyone doing a loan with me? Nobody will trust me. Everybody sees the guy who's doing it and doesn't realize that it takes a long time to get there.
Yeah, the way I described it to somebody I was recently looking to employ was, hey, just like anything else, it says you need to have 2 years of experience to get the job. But to get 2 years of experience, you have to have had the job. So in the case of a loan officer, okay, we're going to ask you to be a loan officer, but you haven't done loans maybe recently, and you're going to go out and try and pursue business. And like, okay, what comes first? I know how to do the loans, or I know how to generate the business? Because when I try and come out of the gates and do both at the same time, I don't have enough volume to really learn how to do the loan. And when I go out and talk and try and generate business, I don't have enough volume to sell myself.
Absolutely.
So as you said, the person that I was talking to, she hadn't done loans since 89 to 92. And I was like, what you probably need to do is just come and work under somebody and work on their loans for 3 months.
Yeah,
that way
that's a really good option.
Get your loan mojo back. And then go out and start pursuing origination of your own, because otherwise you got the horse and the cart standing next to each other going, hey, you know what? We're not in the right order.
Well, I think it's true. I think you have to you have to kind of master the craft, right? And how do you do that? For me, I was really lucky. I was in a bank, and I joke now, but the people would say, how did you get loans when you're in the bank? We just turned the lights on, and people came in and they said, hey, I need to do a loan. Can you help me? Right. And because the first place they go is to the bank. The second place they go is to guys like us, right? Like, or hopefully maybe the first time, but usually a lot of people just walk into the bank and say, I bank at Wells Fargo. I'm going to Wells Fargo. I'm going to get my Wells Fargo loan. I bank at Chase. I'm going to Chase. So you get a lot of at-bats that way, and you learn through a very painful process of this works, this doesn't work. But I think you need to go somewhere to get at-bats. And so if you're doing it kind of in this space, I think you need to be a junior LO. You need to be an assistant for someone and learn that option. Because I look back in probably the first 5 years, it was a train wreck. I don't know. I feel bad for those people that I gave loans to, because it was a different Jeff that they got.
I appreciate the honesty. And when you're humble like that and transparent, you can also talk to your clients today and say, hey, listen, when I first started out and I was at the bank, here's who I was. So I know who you're dealing with when you're talking to fill in the blank bank, because that was me. And when you read the reviews and you read all the 1-star reviews, it's because a lot of people have that brand new person. And even though you're working with the big brand, you're working with an individual. And if that person doesn't know the rules, they're going to screw it up, and they're going to leave you with a less than great experience.
Right.
All right. Well, I see that you're involved in some charity stuff, Rotary and everything else. Have you incorporated that into your business, or is that something that, is just personal?
Well, it's hard, right? Because you don't want to. I remember clearly, my wife and I were newly married, and we went to church, and this guy came up to me and gave me his card if I ever wanted to buy a car, and I thought, I never want to be that guy, right? I never want to be that guy. But I also never want to shy away from opportunities, right? So in Rotary, I've done loans for friends who are Rotarians. I like the idea of being in Rotary because it gives you an opportunity to kind of have access to a lot of charity things that you don't necessarily have if you're not in those groups, right? And through serving with these guys, they learn your character, and then they come back and they do work with you. So as long as I think if you're doing it for charity first and then the business comes, I'm good with that.
Yep.
I'm not good with business just for charity. I mean, with business first and then the charity as an ancillary thing probably doesn't work well.
Yeah, we tell a lot of, especially the agents around here, you know what, go volunteer with a military charity. You can, go there and you got to give, and then eventually somebody will ask you what you do. It's not you show up and say, I want your business, because you will get spit out so fast of, okay, you're a sleazy salesperson. But if you show up with the right heart and the right intent, then the people will see that, and people work with people they know, like, and trust. So that's how you get exposure, and sometimes that's a way to do it, but it's got to start with the giving.
Yeah, agree. What's the old, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, right? So,
yep.
Good stuff.
Well, I'm out of questions. Do you have any other stuff that you would pass along, or any wisdom or advice?
No, I think you got everything. I'm good.
All right. I appreciate you being on. I hope a lot of people can learn from all the things that you talked about and all the ways that you describe things. And we see a lot more veterans get taken care of because of this interview. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, sir.
All right. I will stop the recording. Any questions or feedback or comments?
No, I wasn't sure what was going to happen, so that worked out well.